Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing great. Hope you're all doing fantastic and that you're all having a great day. Thank you very much over the years for supporting the channel. Thank you very much for leaving likes. Thank you very much for subscribing, for being here through the madness that is the cryptocurrency space, because it continues to get crazier and crazier every single day. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Let me try my very best to try not to rant and rave here, just simply because it is what it is. I think that's the easiest way of kind of saying it. The cryptocurrency space is a fascinating one because I think it's something that captures the imagination of a lot of people, if not everyone around the world, in some capacity or another. Whether it be governments who have gotten into the game, who are buying up Bitcoin, who are also mining Bitcoin, the institutions, the banks. I mean, you really name it. The entire full spectrum is there. There's no longer any doubt in my mind that crypto is going to be around for a very long time. I think in 2017, not that I had doubts, but it was like, what's happening? What is all of this? Where are we going to go? We've evolved very quickly as a space, as a community, and as I've stated many times before, I think it's quite even, I dare say, fascinating. But for me, it's actually kind of terrifying how quickly things are going and how fast things are actually being scooped up. When I've mentioned before in other videos as we've gone over, people have called me dramatic, or people also hate themselves, so of course they're going to talk negatively about me. But when it comes to Bitcoin, it is something that I was like very, very passionate about for the idea of wealth creation. When it comes down to this idea of that Bitcoin is for the people, by a person / people, and that it's basically meant to bring us into a brand new world, a new era where the average everyday person no longer has to rely on the idea of getting into debt to have money, where money is something, or value is something that you have access to because of this computer system and because of this network. You no longer have to beg to be able to use something or to be able to send money somewhere. It kind of just exists. I think a lot of rich people, rather the conclusion that I've come to is that rich people understand this maybe far more than the everyday average person. It's not that they're smarter, but I think they actually understand the literal value of a dollar, like like we all heard when we were kids. If you grow up not having a lot of money, when you get money, you're kind of told to spend it, to get rid of it, to be happy, go buy whatever that thing is you want to buy. But when you realize that holding a dollar and investing can make $1.05, your first goal is to find 10 more dollars so that they can make 50 cents for you, and to find $100 so that they can make $5 for you. And it continues in this way. The way that I think that Bitcoin is going to continue evolving, as I've stated before, I do think that we will have a multi-coin world. That is my idea behind all of this, but Bitcoin is the clear winner. It's kind of similar to how we have a US dollar, a euro, and a yen, but the US dollar is at the top of the charts. This is what I think will happen for Bitcoin. I think other coins will be able to capture 1%, 2.5% of the market in the future, but Bitcoin will be the head honcho. The problem with that is that I think that will happen in about 15 to 20 years. So the problem basically being is that it's not right now. Because if we could see right now how big Bitcoin was going to become, everyone would make a mad dash. Like if we could have each go into the future for 2 minutes, you could check prices and you see that Bitcoin's at $56 million, you would do everything in your power to accumulate as much Bitcoin, as much Ether, as much other coins as much as you possibly could. The people who I think, once again, who have realized where this is all going are already people who are already wealthy. And that's been one of the things that I've been saying on this channel for a while. I know it seems maybe repetitive, maybe, I don't know what word you even want to throw inside there, maybe even find it quite annoying to continue hearing about this over and over. If you hear this news and you find it annoying, you're one of the people who I'm talking to. If you hear me saying over and over that rich people are buying all the Bitcoin, and I estimate that within 2 years, there will be nothing left for normal people, and you cross your arms and you're pouting and you get annoyed, I'm tired of him talking about this, you're one of the people who's going to miss out. That's not a joke. That is a promise. You are one of the people who's not paying attention to everything that's happening, to where the money is going, to where the money is flowing, to how much money is actually within this space and how much money there is to be made. When this news came out, I knew that it was going to be popular. There was nothing in my mind that said that it wouldn't be, but it was another... Sorry, I was hearing something. I guess maybe somebody else is in the house. I think it's going to be another notch in the insanity that is the cryptocurrency space. Now, once again, it's very simple news. It's nothing crazy or dramatic. You won't be able to have to decipher it to understand what I'm saying. But things like this change the fabric of the cryptocurrency space. They change what Bitcoin actually is and who it's for and what it's going to come down to. And I'm going to explain a lot of this to you as well so that you really, really get it. MicroStrategy is back in the news. MicroStrategy, made famous by their Bitcoin purchases, has recently announced that they have purchased another 51,780 Bitcoin in one go. MicroStrategy normally purchases around 3,000 Bitcoin, 5,000 Bitcoin, that kind of thing. And it took them, the really big news over the year is that it took them 2 years to acquire around 200,000 Bitcoin. It took them 2 years, 200,000. That made popular news because the Bitcoin ETFs, and more so BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF, they accumulated around 300,000, 400,000 Bitcoin. And I think a third of the time, actually a third of the time. And I think that I don't know if it was embarrassing. Rich people are weird. For those of you who don't know, rich people are very weird. They get embarrassed for the weirdest things. There's been conversations before in documentaries where they talk to rich people. And I mean people who have hundreds of millions and billions of dollars. And if someone's richer than them, they have this thing in their head that they're kind of not good enough, forgetting that 7 billion people will never, ever even come close to the amount of money that they have. So I think that actually lit a fire under Michael Saylor, who's the CEO of MicroStrategy, to maybe start buying more coins. I'm not really exactly sure what it is, because since then they've been really upping their amount of purchases. It's estimated that the numbers that we've gotten before from a number of cryptocurrency companies, depending on which angle that you're looking at, as I mentioned in another video, it's estimated that there are maybe several 100,000 Bitcoin actually left up for grabs. That is to say, I think the numbers we were getting were 700, 800, and 900,000 Bitcoin. That's actually liquid. That's left over. So out of the 21 million that will ever be, the 19 million that we have mined, the 4 to 6 million that are lost and gone forever, The other coins are basically being held by people, by companies, by institutions, and that the cryptocurrency, the Bitcoin on crypto exchanges, is not all available. It belongs to people who have no intention of selling, but they're using the crypto exchanges as another form of holding, if you will. So therefore, 700, 800, 900,000 Bitcoin is left up for grabs for 8 billion people. I've mentioned other times before, I would love to live in a world. I would love to live in a world whenever we got news like this. Bitcoin's price rose not because of MicroStrategy buying, but because there were around 300, 500,000 new Bitcoin wallets that day who all purchased some, 1/100th of a Bitcoin so that they can also have something for themselves and their family in the future. I was watching something about wealth allocation within the cryptocurrency space, and it was also an article that we spoke about before on this channel, but this was a while ago. And one of the ideas is going to be for the crypto space. It's kind of going to work out like this. The average person we were talking about before, remember we were saying if someone had a monetary emergency, and they needed to acquire or find $1,000, could they do it? I think the number within the US is like 50 or 60% of people said no. If there was an emergency, they could not find $1,000. Like there was no way for them to do it. And then they were saying, well, what if that number was boosted up to 3,000 to 5,000? How many of you could like find $5,000 right now? And I think it was like 75% of Americans said that they could not come up with $5,000 in the form of an emergency. That's 3 out of every 4 people walking down the street. Imagine that number gets raised to 10,000, to 15,000, to 20,000. That number probably is around 90-something% of people would be like, there's not a chance on this earth. The average amount of money that people tend to have in their bank accounts at any given time. There was also a video I just saw. Like it was done playfully. It was done by a bunch of women who were working in a hospital somewhere in America. And they were playing like a game on Instagram, TikTok, where like it was one of those, whatever. Anyway, they were doing a thing where like they were showing how much money they actually had in their bank account. But they took it lightly because I think in the face of disaster, you can't really do anything else but laugh. And one of them held up her phone and she had $27. The other one held up her phone and she was on Zelle. I think it's called Zelle from JP Morgan. And she had like $16. Another one had like minus 40 and she laughed. And like none of them had over $100 in their bank account. But they, you continue working because the idea is that you work, you make money, you pay your rent, you pay your bills, you buy food. At the end of the month, you have nothing left. You work, you get your money, and it's this loop that kind of continues forever. When I tell you, and I'm like not asking you, when I tell you all the things that are going to happen, what's currently taking place, the levels of wealth allocation, the levels of wealth consolidation, asset allocation by the richest people who already own everything. And then I bring the point home that this is also happening with Bitcoin. The thing that I was watching was talking about that this is going to happen in the cryptocurrency space as well. Remember how I was saying that like the way forward, if you will, like for money is probably going to be crypto. Therefore, we can ascertain from all this heavy buying from all these companies that the people who hold crypto will benefit the most. Obviously, logically, the more Bitcoin you have, the more money you'll make. The more Ether you have, the more money you'll make. The more XRP you have, the more money you'll make. Same exact thing with land, real estate, stocks. So they were discussing this idea of wealth allocation. We actually even went over part of it in a video. Remember, I was showing you, for those of you who missed it, there was an article that we went over, and it was talking about the amount of millionaires within the cryptocurrency space. So not people who are millionaires in their US dollar bank account, but people who are actual crypto. Like in crypto, they have over $1 million. And I think the news that we heard at that time as well was that there were several 100 million people who were into crypto. The number's always weird. It's always different. We don't know. Out of hundreds of millions of people, I believe there are only, I think 12,000 people who actually are like Bitcoin millionaires. And then the other half has to do with like people who own like altcoins, and the guy who's like that Dogecoin millionaire guy who's always on Twitter talking about stuff. And they were explaining that if it continues in this direction, the wealth disparity between like people who have crypto and who do not have crypto is going to grow extremely wide. Their idea was that crypto looks like it's going to take over and or in some capacity be around forever. That's what I was saying. A lot of people think that the US dollar is going to crumble and turn into dust like some Power Rangers villain at some point. But what's going to happen is we're going to exist with the dollar, the euro, and the yen maybe for the next like even 50 something years. They will be severely weakened and people will not use them as much, but they will still be around in some digital capacity, whether it be through the government, maybe banks are being forced to use them. No one knows what the future is going to hold. That's kind of the generalized idea. So they were saying that, and I also, concluded from this, they were saying the really crazy part is that like the wealth continues to move in one direction, very similar to like the non-digital world. The allocation of homes to people who are already wealthy, the allocation of this to people who already have the money. And as I stated before, it's the people who already have the money who really understand the actual value of the dollar, of money, of investing, of putting money away, and essentially hoarding and accumulating more. People have had a lot of opportunities over the course of multiple years to make sure, and I say this from this vantage point as well. I recently posted, this was maybe a week ago, I posted on Twitter where I was asking people, do you own Bitcoin? Do you not own Bitcoin? Do you want to own Bitcoin? Do you have no intention of owning Bitcoin? There was a healthy amount of people who said they don't own Bitcoin and have no intention of ever owning Bitcoin. And I sit there and I go, there was a point where you could have paid $100 and had around 10K in Bitcoin at this point, like a very simple explanation. And I don't know how people would make sure, especially after watching this channel, there's almost no way, would make sure that they don't have any type of allocation into crypto at all, but also no Bitcoin when you know exactly what's going to happen. You see the way that the world is changing, right? You see this mad dash for this asset that is meant to be allocated to people around the world. And as I've stated many other times before, I know there are a lot of people who don't care about other humans and will do whatever they want and yada yada, and don't see any problem with like the not so much the Bitcoin distribution, but the idea that like Bitcoin is for everyone, but it means almost nothing to them because they only care about themselves. Not realizing that you only caring about yourself is also making it so that we literally go back to the old system or stay in the old system, or the old system kind of just continues to balloon in the direction that it's actually going, where basically the only people who like benefit from it are the people who already have stuff from it. The idea of MicroStrategy, once again, keep this in mind. If there's only around 800 or 900,000 Bitcoin that's actually liquid and available for 8 billion people, MicroStrategy buying 51,000 Bitcoin just took a gigantic chunk of that off the table. And even from my, preferred perspective, as I told you before, I screamed and told all my friends to own at least 1/100th of a Bitcoin. If you do nothing else, make me happy, buy 1/100th of a Bitcoin, so at least I know you have something. If those 51,000 coins had been divvied up in that way, this would have been 5.1 million people who had purchased 1/100th of a Bitcoin, which also would have made me a lot happier. The point of Bitcoin and the point of me having this channel isn't to hear myself talk so that I talk into a microphone looking at a screen. It's to make sure that all of you, and I would love if more people actually also jumped on the bandwagon as well. Simply because this is no longer a question of if Bitcoin is going to make it, it's how big Bitcoin is going to be. How much money there is to be made in the space. Who deserves this money? Who needs this money? Like, how many of you, even from this perspective, how many of you got into investing a couple of years ago and you know people who don't invest? Got it. How many of you know people like 15 years ago, if they had gotten into Bitcoin or crypto, their lives would be unrecognizable? Now do that for 10 years. Do that for 5 years. Still pretty unrecognizable when it comes to cryptocurrency prices and how much things have risen since 2018, 2019. Now do that 15 years in the future. That's always the point that I'm trying to make, that this is a long-term game. We are going to. This purchase, when I tell you this like shocked me, I knew they were going to purchase more Bitcoin. MicroStrategy mentioned, as we were going over in another video, this was maybe 2 months ago, that they have a new strategy. And the strategy is supposed to take place next year. They have a new strategy called like the 21 strategy or something like that, where basically they're trying to raise $42 billion next year and the year after to be able to use that money to purchase Bitcoin. So hearing that even beforehand that they went and did something like this means that my time frame is has been pushed up quite dramatically as far as when I think that there will be no Bitcoin left. This is one company. This isn't $51,000. This isn't $510,000. This is 51,780 Bitcoin of the most finite asset that we've ever had on this planet. Software intelligence firm MicroStrategy filed a report with the US SEC on Monday announcing their latest Bitcoin acquisition. Between the 11th of November and the 17th of November, the company purchased 51,780 Bitcoin for $4.6 billion in cash. The way that MicroStrategy works is that they usually announce that they're thinking of buying Bitcoin, and then we hear nothing until the purchase. And then they tell us, yeah, it was about 5 weeks ago that we actually purchased. I guess they're trying to do it without moving the market. I'm not really sure. $4.6 billion in cash, averaging at around $88,000 per coin, including fees. Funded by proceeds from a recent equity sale. This purchase increases MicroStrategy's total Bitcoin holdings to 331,200, acquired for an aggregate $16.5 billion US dollars. When I said how, for those of you who are wondering, MicroStrategy recently had one of those things where they sell off debt from the company or create debt against the company to buy more Bitcoin. But I think they had raised like $1.2 billion. So I guess maybe the other billions were from their stash of cash that they had to make sure that they jumped ahead. Once again, there's so much happening, dude. We're getting reports, and there are rumors that, well, actually, they're not rumors. We just don't know who they are. We have rumors going around that there are 5 countries who are front-running the United States before it's announced that the U.S. is going to make their own Bitcoin treasury, which is also being pushed through and proposed by Cynthia Loomis, who I think her proposed plan is, which is crazy. Proposed plan is for the U.S. to acquire 100,000 Bitcoin over the course of 5 years. MicroStrategy just did that, half of that in one fell swoop. If the U.S. is only purchasing 20,000 Bitcoin a year, the U.S. is also going to be left behind as well. Do you get that number? If MicroStrategy did this twice, they would have accumulated 5 years worth of what the U.S. plans on doing. It was only a couple of months ago that MicroStrategy announced that they had 200,000 Bitcoin. It was just a couple of months ago. I think they had 192,000. Then it went to 197,500. And then it was 201, and everyone was like, oh my gosh. That went to 247,000. These people have this is one company. 331,200 Bitcoin is owned by this one company. And I need to say this for a simple, like, logical fact. Michael Saylor, the CEO of the company, said years ago that he already had over 100,000 Bitcoin. And I was discussing like a month or two ago where I was like, you all know he's also buying more as well, right? He's just not telling people how much that he has. And the only reason why we know how much MicroStrategy has is because of SEC filings. I'm actually certain that if MicroStrategy wasn't obligated to actually share this information with the US SEC, we probably would have stopped hearing about this a long time ago and would have been really confused as to who just bought 51,780 Bitcoin. This is one company. So what I think is going to happen, to finish off the other story, is basically similar to how people can't come up with that $500, that $1,000. I think that's going to basically be the new future. This isn't a joke. Like, this is exactly what I think. If you want my exact idea of what's going to happen, I had illustrious thoughts of what the cryptocurrency space would have looked like 8 years ago to the future. Back in 2016, 2017, I just knew that all the Bitcoin was going to be purchased by the proletariat, like by the people, for the people. Everyone's like, we got this. Let's do this. Let's keep acquiring. Around 2030, government start paying attention. It's too late. Everyone has Bitcoin. The world as it exists right now, we already have people who can't afford 500, who can't afford 5,000, and people who are worth $200 billion. So the way that the future is going to basically be is that there are going to be people who are so wealthy that we can't actually conceptualize what it even means to have that much money. These are the people who just on a whim purchased 51,780 Bitcoin. How many of you have 51,780 in the bank? Like, that's how weird it is. Like, that amount of Bitcoin can't be purchased by anyone normal on any given kind of day. So we're going to enter a world where, like I told you before, there are going to be people who are going to brag to you in the future. They're going to brag to you that they manage, like, they have 14,000 Satoshis. They have 126,000 Satoshis because it's all that they could afford after Bitcoin hit several $1 million. The reason Bitcoin hit several $1 million is because all these companies and institutions and banks and governments continue to buy up a lot of Bitcoin for themselves, knowing exactly what's coming. The divide is going to be monstrous. And the only people who will benefit are those who actually have the assets. Heed my warning. This is like the third time I'm saying it in the last like 30 days. A lot of people are very blasé about the way that money moves around the world, or the way that wealth is created, or the way that wealth is held, or who gets to control or own the wealth as well. You are going to see that, how do I say this in the nicest possible way? Take advantage of the time that you have right now. Take advantage of being an early investor in this space. Make sure that you do the most with the time left that you've been given within this market before prices go insane. We are talking about in 2025 that people think that Bitcoin's going to $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, or estimates for $1 million as well. If not $1 million next year, then in 2029. Can you afford $100,000 for a fragment of a Bitcoin? Can you, and I say this in this way as well. So many people over the course of a bear market, they want prices to remain low, or they want to accumulate certain coins and stuff like that. I hope you've been buying. I hope you were able to buy what you wanted to buy. I hope you got what you wanted. There will be no Bitcoin left in 2 years for the average person. What does that make you? Does that give you chills? What does it make you think of? Like, really, like, what does it do to your like psyche when you hear something like that? If this purchase was replicated by 15 other companies, 15 other companies, there would be no more Bitcoin left to buy on cryptocurrency exchanges. 15 other companies. And you can even, throw in the word government as well. Because the news that we're getting is that apparently there are 5 other nation states. It is believed that Dubai and Saudi Arabia are 2 of them, that they're buying up massive amounts of Bitcoin, like right now. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. This was, of course, very, 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 very popular news. People love the MicroStrategy news. They love the news about companies and institutions buying up what I think should be bought up by people around the world. I still am holding out hope. My hope dwindles every couple of days. I'm hoping that we hear that out of nowhere, that 80 million people jump into the market in half a year and buy up Bitcoin, buy up as much as they possibly can, so that in the future, they're able to support themselves and their family, and that they can, live better lives. The way that it's going right now, it is just going to be, you know what that means, right? It is just going to be the people who hold Bitcoin who are making all the money. And I told you before, last thought, you might think it's insignificant, but being able to stake your Bitcoin and getting a guaranteed return from it is going to turn the world on its head. If MicroStrategy has 331,000 Bitcoin, for those of you who missed it, these protocols are being created, but I think the big ones are going to be on crypto exchanges, like to offering to retail clients. When MicroStrategy is able to lock up their 331,000 Bitcoin into a staking protocol and make a guaranteed 5% return on their $16 billion, you're going to understand everything that I've been saying. Yeah. I don't mean to make the videos. I don't mean to make the videos dramatic. But yeah, this one actually shocked me. It takes a lot to shock me. 51 they've never done that before. It's always 3,000, 2,000, 14,000, like 14. It was, oh my gosh, 14,000. 51,000 Bitcoin. They're doing this as well to also front run the US. And I have an idea that MicroStrategy is going to try to lend Bitcoin to governments in the future. If the only way that you can actually have power or make new money, like the idea of Bitcoin, like being, the gold standard or digital gold, or making it so that your government can only create a new form of fiat based off of how much Bitcoin they have. I think MicroStrategy is preparing to gather up as much Bitcoin as they can. They want over 1 million, for those of you who didn't hear them say that before. They want over 1 million, and they're going to be able to actually lend out their Bitcoin to governments. And probably the payment for that will be the fiat currency that gets created. We're in for a wild ride. We're in for a very wild ride. Please pay attention. I know a lot of you are, but for those of you who aren't, who are rolling your eyes or don't get it, this is a gigantic warning. As I have been warning you since Bitcoin was $1,000, since Bitcoin was $15,000, since Bitcoin was $21,000, since XRP was 1 cent, since Ethereum was $8. I'm trying my best. I'm trying to do what I can to get people to understand. Yeah, I give it 2 years, actually less than 2 years, but I'm giving 2 years as an actual wider time frame. Right. Yeah. That's the MicroStrategy has purchased $16 billion worth of Bitcoin. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope that you all are having a great day, a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.